I want to talk about when you have a vision for what you want to create, but sometimes you're getting advice from family and friends and it makes you feel like they don't support you. Here's what I mean by that. When I was building my company, I got advice from my dad, who I love. He's my hero. But man, when I was starting off, I felt like he was trying to cramp my dreams. Every time we talked, he'd always tell me about the 100 things that I was doing wrong or that I should think about, or, and it just made me second guess everything. One of the things he said was, you really got to watch your cash flow. You really got to watch your cash flow. And I was like, I had saved $70,000 at that point. Okay. And I was only 24. I felt really like maybe unfounded confident, but I felt like I'm doing all the right things. Why does he keep bringing this up? Well, I continued to build the company. I hired 4 people from day one, and we started doing work with clients, and we started to build the product, and we started to generate revenue. And fast forward 6 to 9 months, I understood exactly what he was talking about. Essentially what happened is because of the way we were working with clients, and we would I hired people. So all of a sudden cost day one, I've got salaries. Then I bought them all, new laptops because they needed that. We had to buy some servers. We had to buy all this infrastructure. So 70 grand gets depleted really quick. Then we, had to find these customers, get the customers on board, and then eventually do some work, invoice the customers, and then they would pay us, but they would pay us 30 days after we did the work. And then when they paid us through a check that showed up in the mail. And then we were in Canada, they were in the US. So then there was a 3-week delay there. Oh, and then when I went to the bank and deposited that check, the bank's like, oh yeah, it's frozen for 20 business days because you're a new company. And I'm like, literally the bank account went, whoop, no money in. And I knew exactly what my dad was talking about. That's what he meant by cash flow. And I ended up having to sell my receivables, sell my essentially invoices to a business payday loan shark. Those payday loans for individuals, they exist for businesses as well. So if you need some cash before your paycheck, and they will 100% finance your receivables, and they'll take 30%. So I literally lost 30% of my profit or revenue just because I didn't understand how to manage my cash flow. Now, when my dad was saying this to me, it wasn't because he was not believing in my dream. It's because he knew I didn't have the experience to make financial decisions that were aligned with cash flow because I was just looking at revenue. So I want to share a few principles. Number one is to dream big, but start small, but at least start. Okay. So if I just want you to start, I want you to get 1 customer. I want you to get 10 customers. I want you to get 100 customers, but I want to make sure that you keep your expense structure small and reinvest. I don't want to stop you. I want to encourage you. I want you to dream big, okay? But you got to start small. I had a friend, Julie, once, and she had started a company, a personal training company in her house. She converted her whole basement into kind of a gym. So emptied out the basement, bought gear, equipment, etc., started her business, posted it on Facebook. It's probably a year, 16 months after she started that I get a call. And she just said, hey, I could use your advice. Do you have some time? And I went over to her house. This was 15 years ago. And I go and we go upstairs to her office, and we're sitting in her office, and she goes, here's the deal. Essentially, I got some money from my parents. I got a line of credit. We secured against the house. I spent all the money on the new equipment in the basement, my office, furniture. She had letterhead. She had business cards. She had a branded swag. She had everything. And the problem was she had no customers. She just, and this is normal. This happens every day in business. And maybe you're like, whoa, why did they do that? Why did they start small and do workouts in a park, and then from a park they could, and I get it. People say this all the time. They're like, oh, if you're starting a restaurant, you should start at the farmer's market, and then, to the food truck, and then eventually a small location, and then maybe a pop-up shop or whatever. And I've told people the same advice. But I also realize that if you're not around other people, that maybe you just think that is what business is about, is the setup. It's getting the gear to attract the customers, and nobody's going to want to come train in my basement on old gear, or nobody's going to take me seriously if I don't have branded swag and I'm supposed to be a business person. But I really want to encourage you to not start too big. I want you to dream really freaking huge, but I want you to start small. The second thing is to really know your numbers. And the whole argument is that revenue is for vanity, okay? Top line revenue, it's sexy, it's awesome. It's like people talk about how many employees you have, or they say, well, this is our revenue. You know, we're at 10 million, we're at 1 million, we're at 5, and they're really proud of it. So that's interesting. So revenue for vanity, profit for sanity, right? You might hear this, profit meaning like, okay, at the end of the month, how much profit do we make? The one thing you'll learn in business if you've been doing long enough is that what your accountant calls profit is not what you think profit is. I know me, I like to look at cash, not profit, because a spreadsheet or a balance sheet, a P&L, whatever you're using for your accounting software, the profit number does not equal dollars I can then go and spend. It just means I got to pay taxes. So profits for sanity, but cash is king. Cash flow. What you have left over at the end of the month from a cash point of view, after you've paid off, your credit cards and your lines of credits and your wages and your vendors, etc. That is the most important thing. And most entrepreneurs don't understand how to do projections, and they don't understand how cash flow is created. So if this is news to you, again, it's on my heart to share this. Can you please spend some time learning about this? This is a non-negotiable, fundamental aspect about business that if you don't know how this all works, you will catch yourself in a bad spot. Number 3 that I want to share that I think is really important is share your decisions with other people that have been more successful than you. And this is what I mean. I have so many friends, okay? Family members, cousins, friends in my community that I find out after the fact that they made a big decision to buy a business, to start a business, to invest their life savings into a business, when they could have shared that with me prior. But people in the early days, you're just like, well, I don't want to. You get into the spot where you're worried that if I share my vision and they don't buy into it, then I'm going to feel deflated. And there's this tendency that we do of not sharing because we don't want to have that feeling that people don't believe in us. And I get it. But I'm telling you, if you're making big financial decisions, don't necessarily go to your parents who've never done this before, who've never, maybe executed their dreams at the level that you're going to do. And that's totally fine, no judgment. But go to people that have had that kind of success. If you have any friend that's been in business for 5 years and you're starting a business and you are not sharing your decisions with them, just saying, hey, here's some big decisions we're making. This, and this. A new business partner, I'm deciding I need to raise some money, we're moving locations, whatever it is. Just get in the habit of sharing your decisions to get feedback. Now, you don't have to take any action on it, but at least you're going to be informed. At least you're going to have somebody doing a check and balance on you. And I'm telling you, if you're wanting to go big, then these are the things that are non-negotiable to allow you to stop the potential downside of making bad decisions, right? And to really put a bow on everything, I want to share this belief that I have when people are comparing themselves to others. They see, a big company do this and they're like, well, they're doing this, or they see an individual doing something and they're like, my friend's doing this, so this must work. Here's the caution, okay, which is all of this wrapped up into a bow. Don't compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 13, okay, or their chapter 27. If you have never had a business in the past and a side hustle when you were 17, selling something at the farmer's market, doesn't cut it, okay? Unless you are supporting yourself 100% financially by your business and you've had some success, then you don't have a chapter 1. You don't have 1 year of education, right? And when we compare ourselves to the 32-year-old that's making $25 million a year, and you don't realize they've legit been running their business since they were 15, meaning that from the age of 15, and I have friends like this, they have been self-sustaining their income off of business activities. So they're on chapter, what would that be, 17, and you're looking at their decisions and comparing your chapter 1 to their chapter 17. Biggest fallacy that you can make in business, which is, and why for a lot of people they go way too big too fast, they don't have that understanding.